Imagine a world in the future in which technology is viewed as magic. In the aftermath of some great apocalypse, it appears that humanity has been saved by God only to start anew in a paradise that was once Japan, known as the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado. As humanity picks through the wreckage of the old world, they are protected from incursions by demons by a group known as the Samurai, those who are able to use ancient technology to control and fight demons. As more and more demons continue to enter the world, a young group of new samurai must fight off the demons and preserve the kingdom while discovering the truth about the apocalypse. This is not their story. It has virtually nothing to do with that. And that is the big problem with SMT IV, or Shin Megami Tensei IV, is that the premise of the game and the actual game really don't have a ton to do with each other. I'm going to try to explain the plot as best I can, but it's an SMT game, and explaining SMT games is difficult. SMT IV came out for the 3DS, interestingly enough. How they were able to release an SMT game on a handheld console, I don't know. But I have to say, the graphics are spectacular, the voice acting is great, the music's great. They must have filled this memory cartridge to the brim. This looks as good as any GameCube game, probably better. Excuse me. Than a lot of them. But yeah, it's an SMT game, and people ask me about the Shin Megami Tensei franchise, and I gotta say I like it, but it's frustrating. It's frustrating because I find in general with SMT games, with the exception of the Devil Survivors, the plot is really bad. The story is always like haphazard, thrown together. They always insert like random gods or random deities or random demons that really have no point being in the game. Like in Soul Hackers, randomly like half the villains wind up being like demons from mythology, and there was no reason for that. It could have just been some human who wanted to become a god. Like they just kind of, I find, insert random stuff into it because we need more mythology. And that was a problem with this game. And it kind of ruins the story, and the story kind of feels like it's cobbled together, like I said. It's kind of hard to describe exactly why I find the stories bad. They're just, in contrast to the gameplay and the characters, they're just kind of either shallow or, like this game, so convoluted, hidden behind so much lore, so much dialogue, so many cutscenes, you just kind of give up part of the way through. And that's another problem with SMT4 and kind of the SMT games in general. They're too long. And I don't say that because they are too long in the sense they're too long in terms of the amount of hours you put in. I don't really mind that. They're too long in the sense that most of the game is grinding or where the fuck do I go. And that's a problem I've had with every SMT game aside from Devil Survivor, which doesn't have an open world. But you just don't know where you're going half the time. I swear to God, during this game, I just got lost for large periods of the game. It's often it's not explained. They're like, go talk to this person. You're like, where is this person? They're like, I don't know, just go talk to them. Or go to this part of Tokyo. Well, I don't know where neighborhoods are located in Tokyo. And they're like, well, just go to this neighborhood. So you're like running through Tokyo trying to find the spot where you're supposed to go. And like sometimes what happens in SMT, well, in every SMT game, is there's like events that unlock other things that aren't like directly related. Like if you're playing Persona Q, which I'm playing at the moment, you can go like the end of the hall and they'll be like, look, there's a cupcake here. Oh boy, I'm gonna eat that cupcake. And then there's like a skit, and then a door on the other side of the level is open, and there's no way to know that. You just have to run around clicking on random things. Maybe you're able to figure out a cryptic hint. And that's like 70% of the game is that and grinding. And it's very frustrating because it's it's unnecessary. It's just padding. And that's kind of the problem with a lot of these games. There's just so much padding. It's just frustrating. You can hear it in my voice because I love these games. I like them, but they're just so flawed. So SMT IV is the worst, or actually I don't know if the worst. Strange Journey was pretty bad for that. But it's a where the fuck do I go game. Probably about 50% of my gameplay was just me running around, trying every door, talking to every person, trying desperately to get stuff to unlock so I could move to the next part of the game. And that's not fun, and the game kind of assumes you know the layout of Tokyo. So the story I'll get to, it's really complicated, but it's very unexplanatory about where you're supposed to go. The plot is kind of a convoluted mess, and the game is way too long. Like I said, if the game was like 40, 50 hours long and they was filled to the brim with content, that would be fine. But large portions of the game feel like they're just like, we have to make this longer because it's a JRPG. So there's that issue. My second issue with the SMT games in general is the difficulty. Now, I don't really like super difficult RPGs. I just kind of like RPGs where I can just play through, and if I level, if I'm not like completely retarded about combat and I upgrade my weapons, I can do okay. SMT games are supposedly, with emphasis on supposedly, tactical. You gotta think, you gotta plan, you gotta use skills that are good against your enemies. You gotta find out their weaknesses, and then they use an instant kill move and your entire party dies because of random chance. And there's no save feature in most of the cases, so you're fucked. And that's kind of how SMT works. And that's why I always play on easy mode. Because you can find, this is especially true in Strange Journey, you can just run into a group of enemies and they'll randomly select like an instant death skill or a petrification skill or something like that, and they'll kill your whole party in one shot, or they'll kill half of it, and the enemies are normally like really strong, so even normal encounters you have a high chance of just dying. And I don't find that fun. I'm sure there's a lot of people who do find that fun, but I rage quit Strange Journey because there's a boss called Ouroboros who has a skill, I think it's like called weather control or something, and it does a random status effect to every member of your party, and he has an instant kill move, so you can get equipment to guard from one of them, and it's game over if you get petrified, even if another member of your party can de-petrify you. So there's like the combat I find is just largely luck, and actually I find on easier difficulties it's more based on skill than on higher difficulties. Because I know sometimes when I was playing Devil Survivor, which is a lot more tactical, some battles I would just get a bunch of lucky rolls and I just blow through it like there's nothing wrong. And other levels, the AI would not be retarded and I just die immediately. So the combat is too luck-based in these games. They make you grind, but grinding I don't find really makes you feel that much stronger. It makes you, I guess, less likely to die in one hit, but if you're going to play an SMT game, I recommend playing on easy. There's no shame in playing on easy or very easy. Easy or very easy can still be, like, difficult. Like, easy mode SMT is like normal to hard mode on any other game, and normal SMT is like hard to very hard. Like at the beginning of this game, and that's another issue, it's the beginning of these games is always brutal. At the beginning of SMT IV, when you have no idea what you're doing, the enemies are much, much stronger than you, and you just die over and over and over again. Until you grow some sanity and you switch the game to easy difficulty, and then it suddenly becomes playable. So those are kind of my issues with the franchise. Bad stories in general, and kind of problematic combat. Aside from the randomness, I do really like the combat. I like how every game has the same magical skills. I like how there's a lot of tactics involved. There's a lot of planning. You get to collect demons kind of like Pokemon, and there's so many of them, and you can fuse them together. And all that is really, really fun. The core gameplay of these games are really good. It's just that there's so much unnecessary grinding and so much luck involved in them. That and SMT games almost always do characters well, although not really this game. But yeah, like Devil Survivor 2 has some of the best characters I've ever seen in a video game. Persona games, great characters, well thought out, great depth, great social interaction and banter. So they're kind of a mixed bag. So let's talk about SMT IV. So SMT IV, as I was kind of hinting at in my intro, takes place in the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado, which has existed for about 1,500 years. So there's just going to be a lot of spoilers here. So for whatever reason, I think because humanity built the... And I'm sure people will be like, Argent, that's not true. That's not what's in the game. I'm just trying to speculate because the game's so convoluted. Humanity built something called the Yamato Perpetual Reactor, which is a singularity reactor that produces infinite amounts of energy. However, what it also did was it opened a portal to the expanse where the demons come from, and they began flooding into Tokyo. God took the worthy up into arcs, which he brought up into the sky, which are called cocoons, and he sent down his wrath to destroy the land. However, the god of Tokyo raised up a firmament, which is like a big like a big dome over Tokyo, and God's wrath hit that instead, blasting the surface of Tokyo. Meanwhile, the cocoons came back down from the sky, and the people God saved established their own kingdom called the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado. And I think someone from Tokyo came up from below and became their new king, or something like that. But so the two societies have not seen each other for thousands of years. Samurai occasionally go down to the outskirts of Tokyo and steal some technology, but largely they're separate. Time moves 60 times faster above than it does below because of the influence of the black hole that lies at the heart of the Yamato Perpetual Reactor. So 25 years have passed in Tokyo, whereas 1,500 have passed above Tokyo. So they've become completely different cultures. People above Tokyo, the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado speaks Japanese, but all writing is done in Latin script for some reason. So a society is kind of formed, so it's kind of feudal in nature. The people seem to worship God, although the religion has never really gone into exploration. They worship God and the angels, but we don't really know much else about them. Society is divided into two castes, which we never really talk about or is never really important to the plot. Nothing about the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado is important to the plot. You're barely there for like less than 5% of the game. It's not interesting. They didn't want to do that. They just wanted you to go to Tokyo because it's an SMT game, so it has to take place in Tokyo because it can't take place anywhere else. Maybe some of the older ones took place somewhere else, but yeah, whatever. So samurai are people who can use the Demonicon, or Demonica, however you pronounce it, Demonica gauntlets. The Demonica was a basically kind of powered armor that was invented that allowed humans to fight demons and humans to summon and control demons. So samurai are those who are able to interface with Demonica armor and can use magical powers and can fight and control demons. So they protect the kingdom and they serve as its elite military force. So a being called the Black Samurai shows up, and she starts distributing what's called literature to the population. And literature starts to teach them stuff like how to read, and learning to read turns them into demons for no adequately explored reason. And it's like destroying society. So the head of the samurai is like, guys, you gotta go down. You gotta go. I could send some experienced samurai to deal with this existential crisis, but I'm gonna send like 4 people who just became samurai the other day. You guys are gonna go down into Tokyo, and you're gonna go and stop the Black Samurai. So probably about 40 to 50% of the game is you stopping the Black Samurai, which is literally just going. So you get down to Tokyo. So Tokyo is under the firmament. so it's in perpetual darkness. However, because of the Yamato perpetual reactor, it's lit up because there's limitless electricity. So it's constantly night, but there's light everywhere, if that makes any kind of sense. But yeah, so you go down there, and you just kind of wander around Tokyo. You go from place to place in Tokyo. They're like, oh, go to here, go to here, go to here. And there's really like not much else for like the first 40% of the game. It was literally like, I think 10 to 15 hours of just wandering around Tokyo being told to go somewhere else or do this thing. And it's just so boring. And the game makers seem to think you have some knowledge of Tokyo geography. So they're like, go to Shibuya, go to this district, go to this district. I'm like, well, where the hell is that? I don't know. I've never been to Tokyo. I'm not Japanese, but the game assumes you know that. So after like hours and hours of boring searching, wondering where the hell you're supposed to go, going to different locations to have some mini event fire so you can go somewhere else, none of which is really explained very well. It turns out that the Black Samurai was actually Lilith, who's the head of an organization called the Ring of Gaia, who believe in strength above all else and seem to be chaotic. And that's about all you ever learn of them. Despite them being one of the two main factions in the game, they're completely irrelevant, like everything else in this game, because we're too interested in what was it called again? So they execute her, but she doesn't die. So then she goes back to the Ring of Gaia, and then they're like, you guys got to go back, and you have to go and do something. I think in particular, they tell you that you have to defeat the people who are running Tokyo, the Ashurakai. The Ashurakai are basically the continuation of the Yakuza. In the aftermath of the apocalypse, they took over running Tokyo. So they have set up kind of this feudal gangster system where they control power and they distribute it to the public. And they maintain some form of social order through rationing and coexistence with the demons who come out of the reactor. What they developed, and you learn about this in probably my favorite part of the game, which is a mission called the True Paradise, which is an awesome name. They raise people with certain genetic and chemical modifications to produce more gray matter, and they use neurochemicals from people to create red pills. And the red pills are used to appease the demons and keep them from destroying Tokyo. So you have kind of mutual coexistence between the demons and the humans, and that is they call it the paradise that they've created. So you go down to defeat the Ashurakai by joining the Ring of Gaia. So yeah, you bring them both down, and after you've done that, you go to the Yamato Perpetual Reactor. And once you get there, you're shown two different timelines. One in which Tokyo is completely destroyed, where the firmament isn't built, and Tokyo is completely annihilated, and the remainder of humanity is exterminated by God's agent Pluto. Or was it maybe the past before Mikado was formed? I don't know. It's not really explained. And the other one is equally lame, where you see what happens if chaos goes through and everything just becomes about strength, and there's more choices where there's more demons around. So we have those two futures. So then what happens is we get the first ending. So one of the main forces in these universe is called the White. Now the White are the embodiment of humanity's despair, and they are nihilists, and they want to destroy the world. because they're tired of being controlled by God and they're tired of the suffering of life in general. So they want to destroy the entirety of the universe and reduce it to everything so that all of humanity can finally find peace in oblivion. So what they ask you, so throughout the game they're trying to pressure you to defeat God and the devil and humanity itself and just return the world to nothing. So at this point in time, you can go for the nihilistic ending where you basically destroy the control module of the Yamato Perpetual Reactor. And when you destroy it, it goes out of control and the black hole just expands exponentially and sucks the entire universe into it. And that's the first ending. If you decide not to side with the white, one of the game's major problems pops up. You get a fork in the road where you're like, okay, I want to side with the angels, or I want to side with Lucifer, or I want to take my own path. And you aren't actually allowed to pick this. It doesn't let you choose your path, even though it's like a false choice. So throughout the game, you've been given decisions, and these decisions are as in-depth as someone will say hi to you, and you can say hi back, or you can tell them to go fuck themselves. And what these decisions do is they give you law or chaos points. And I got law points, which I guess I was thinking of maybe doing a law route, but then I cheated and I looked at the endings and I was like, the neutral route is probably the good ending. So I tried to do chaos stuff. But in the law route, like, because saying hi to people or helping people is lawful, by virtue of playing the game and not being a sociopath, you're probably going to get law. And it doesn't matter anyways, because you aren't allowed to choose your path. Like, it'll say, oh, what you want to do? And I was like, I want to side with the devil. And it's like, oh, you can't do that. Your choices have suggested otherwise. And there wasn't any obvious way I could find to change your alignment. My understanding is there's someone you can go to who tells you your alignment, but it's not really displayed anywhere. So you have this shitty unexplored mechanic that decides the end of the game. So I got the law route. So the law route's pretty cool. You go back to the surface and it turns out that the 7 archangels have taken over the kingdom of Eastern Mikado while you were away. So the angels basically say, we want to destroy the source of demons once and for all and bring perpetual peace and utopia to the world. So what happens is one of your companions, Jonathan, sacrifices himself and he merges with the angels who form Merkava, God's chariot. So all 7 archangels become this giant super being. And with Merkava, you go down into Tokyo and you kill Lucifer. And after you kill Lucifer, you activate the Yamato Perpetual Reactor and destroy it, destroying all of Tokyo proper. And taking with it all the demons and the source of the demons. And above the earth, above the dome, humanity is able to finally live free of constant threat and to kind of pursue a future by themselves. The chaos ending is the opposite, where you destroy above Tokyo, and Tokyo survives as a chaotic, basically hell on earth. And in the neutral ending, you defeat both the angels and Lucifer, and you get all the people from the kingdom of Eastern Mikado to come down to Tokyo, and then you blow the dome up. So everybody survives and everybody's happy. The main character dies in the law ending. I don't think he dies in the chaos ending, and he doesn't die in the neutral ending. So that's kind of the plot of SMT IV. It's not really as coherent as I make it sound. And these are like little bits of dialogue and little bits of lore that come in the middle of just hours and hours of grinding, running around, wondering where the hell you're supposed to go, cursing the game's lack of explanation. And I was like, there's some interesting elements to this, but we just aren't told anything about the backstory of our characters. We don't really know much about them. There's not the character development you see in other games like the Persona games. There's like they're kind of Jonathan and Walter are kind of, I guess, stereotypes. Isabu is a little more interesting, but she just there isn't that much like character development in this game at all. It's just really it's kind of weird because it somehow manages to be excessively complicated and um, opaque while also being obnoxiously boringly simple, and these two things kind of exist at the same time. And that's kind of the problem with SMT4 is it kind of does a lot of things poorly, but the game's graphics, combat system, and kind of plot save it from being a disaster. Overall, I'd say it's kind of a mediocre game, but in a very uneven way. Like it's a mediocre game with really high production values. That's not so bad when you're playing it, but when I finished and I looked back on it, I was like, that was not that good. And I guess that's the best way to describe SMT4. It had a lot of potential, but it really had the worst aspects of the series, but also some of the better aspects of the series. And it's just very frustrating that they didn't do a better job when they were making it. So, anyways, that's Reaction Review. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Argent. I'll talk to you later.